Hey y'all, hi. All right. One woman, two cheeks, 10 drugstore blushes, none of which are powders. We're gonna try to find a good one. If you're new to my channel, then welcome. I'm Hannah. I love makeup. I'm kind of a high-end queen. I love a luxury item. I prefer fewer, nicer things, but I know that there are some drugstore gems, and sometimes I like to buckle down and try to find them. I'm also a writer. I'll link my book down below. Subscribe if you like, but my priority if you live in the US is that you're registered to vote. So please do that no matter what else you do. Let's go ahead and get into the meat of the video. Sometimes I investigate in advance of doing these videos. I have not done that. I have not investigated. The blushes arrived. I opened the box. I counted to make sure that they were all there. And you know what let's do? Let's go through in no particular order, but let's do it tournament style. So with each new one that I try, I will compare it to the best of what has come before it, and then we'll have a winner at the end. So blush number one, cheek number one. Wow, I just now realized that I'm going to be spending 3/4 of this video trying to open the packaging. Unprepared. The NYX Sweet Cheeks Soft Tint Blush Mousse in the shade Nude'Tude. They need a better swatch bar at NYX, and you know what? I'm available. I could give Nude'Tude a better name. I could give it a better shade name. NYX, call me. This feels exactly like the NYX Soft Matte Lip Cream. And I'm only basing that on swatching on the back of my hand. I mean, it just feels like it's the blush version of that. I feel at this moment like what they did was that they just removed the scent from Soft Matte Lip Cream and put it in a nude tube and called it a blush. It's very pretty. I personally I was going to say I don't care for this type of a texture, the sort of dry whipped thing, mousse makeup, but it's not that I dislike it, it's that I don't actively like it. It's that I don't crave to use it. And honestly, it feels very drugstore to me. It feels like it's some pigment whipped full of a bunch of filler that's not necessarily there to make it perform well or improve the finish, but just there to kind of give it body and make it whipped. So it just doesn't feel like carefully considered to me. Sorry, I have a cat hair. Got it. I'm looking for something that is at the drugstore and is at a drugstore price, but feels like it could be high end. And this doesn't feel like that. It just feels totally drugstore to me. The color also is a bit ho-hum. I mean, I went for not exactly the same. I didn't pick mauve in every single one, but I tried to pick the one that I thought I could fall in love with and wear a lot, you know, in each shade range. It looks really good. Like the color looks really pretty when it's buffed out on the cheeks. It dispersed the pigment beautifully. I would totally wear this day in and day out in terms of the way that it just ended up looking. So there's something to be said for it. You know, it's really lovely. There's tons of pigment there, but it's not so intensely pigmented that it was like super overwhelming. I was able to buff it out beautifully with my fingers. I think it's a great product. It just isn't singing to me immediately like I am the drugstore gem you've been looking for. It feels like the fanciest, most beautiful makeup in the world at a price you can't believe, you know? Like that's kind of what I'm looking for. But who knows, maybe nothing else will live up to this and it'll be the winner. Next up, Pacifica Fluffy Blushy in the shade Blushed. Also a very poor performance of shade naming. Blushed, it's like a parody of the shade name, but Fluffy Blushy is a very cute name for a product and might actually be the entire reason that this made it into the video. Okay, so it doesn't feel fluffy at all. I don't know why it's called that. It actually looks very promising right out the gate because I was just saying that I'm not that big of a fan of like the fluffed up mousse drugstore formula that we were experiencing with NYX. It's applying like very sheer, which I really like. I like a blush that's kind of like the tinted Balm version of a blush, not necessarily balmy, but that level of pigment. And it has some sheen. Look at that shine. Okay, a little bit went a longer way than I thought that it would based on the like almost invisible swatch. It does feel kind of balmy, but then it's applying to sort of a dry balm finish, like dry balm is the best way that I can explain it. It's not oily, it's not greasy, it's not Vaseline-y, but it feels like it might have a little bit of emollient, like a little bit of oil in it. Why did they call this Fluffy Blushy? Oh, Pacifica Beauty LLC, Portland, Oregon. I had no idea. This is interesting. Objectively, I actually feel like the NYX looks better. I think that that slightly ruddy color and I don't know, the like like very skin-like finish that it's giving is, I actually think it just looks prettier. Like I look prettier on this side. But I know myself and I know what I like. I know what I like to touch. I know what I like to put on my face. I know what kind of finish I like. And I will be more inclined to use this one. I think that this is more something that I could fall in love with. I would like using it with my fingers. I would like using it with a brush. I would bond with this. And no matter how visually appealing maybe the outcome might be of the NYX, that's not all that it's about. That's actually not most of what it's about, kind of. You heard it here first. So between these two, Pacifica Fluffy Blushy has actually come out on top. The color, this comes in other colors. I picked this one because sometimes a light pinky pink blush really works with my complexion. And I think in this case, especially weirdly, it can like look quite natural. I actually think the color of the NYX looks a little more natural, but I like how light and sheer it is and how easy it would be to wear. I just like it better. I like it better as a product, okay? Okay. And so it begins. Let's see how my cheeks fare. At the beginning, I should have said 1 woman, 2 cheeks, 10 blushes, and 1 bottle of micellar water and a pile of washcloths. I'm using the Farrah Homidi Face Compact to touch up in between. It's like a very thin, lightweight, also kind of a dry, balmy product, and it's just like super quick. And then I'm going to use the NARS powder to mattify a tiny bit under my nose and under the like curve of my cheekbone. Next up, we have Revolution Beauty Super Dewy Liquid Blush in the shade Blush Me Up. I see the Revolution Beauty swatch bar is going for, it's like pun, not a pun. It sounds like a pun, but it's not actually, is it? It's like a reach. It's like a reach as a pun. I think that this is trying to be a Glossier Cloud Paint dupe. It's very pigmented, and it also has that slippiness, that sort of silicone slippiness. Pretty impressive, actually, as a dupe for Glossier Cloud Paint, because it's doing the thing that I like the most that Cloud Paint does, which is that it's applying in sort of a watercolory way and then drying down and becoming part of the skin, like really, really drying down and setting in. Now, I don't know how well it will wear. Glossier Cloud Paint does that to such an intense degree that I can wear it on my hooded lids and it doesn't crease really as the day goes on. It really becomes one with the skin. This looks like it might be prone to like fading actually as the day goes on because it's watercolory, but it's almost like it's already starting to just like absorb away. But Glossier Cloud Paint doesn't have that silicone-y slip. It doesn't have that like fake paste slippy feel. And I'm just not a fan of that. It's funny. There's something about the delivery mechanism of the Pacifica, the sheerness, the fact that it has sheen in it. Even though I think that this, again, it looks really good. It's pretty impressive. I like the sort of ruddy color. Oh yeah, and the Pacifica has really set down pretty well, especially for a pot product. If I threw the 3 of these that I've tested so far together into my makeup bag, I would reach for the Pacifica like over and over and over again, and I wouldn't be as inclined to reach for one of these other 2. Just feels like a little bit fussier, a little more high maintenance. For me too, I think that the color, the very rich color, it means that I have to be a little bit more careful with it. I think that that's part of it. And I like the pot format of the Pacifica. So it's weird, but I feel like the Pacifica is still winning, even though I think that this blush also looks really good, and I think that they did a decent job of duping the Glossier Cloud Paints. But I realize now I was going to just like take off this cheek and apply something else. I feel like that this cheek is going to get worn out like more quickly, but let's see how it goes if I keep proceeding this way. Keep the reigning champion on one cheek. Okay, the next one in the line is actually, I think, the most expensive. Most of these are, I want to say, under $10, and some of them way under $10. And this one from About Face is, I think, closer to 20, but I've always wanted to try it, and it is technically a drugstore blush. The About Face Beauty Cheek Freak Blush Balm in the shade Cowgirl. It does feel really balmy, and it has that like semi-sheer quality, but it also feels like, well, yeah, really slidey, like it's going to become really watercolory and like it might stain. Okay, I love how sheer this is, and I think it could also be built up. I have always shied away from trying this because I didn't like any of the colors. Like they all just look so saturated to me, so bright. And now that I am trying it, I can see that the formula it can easily be built up to be more pigmented, but it's so thin when you, like the layer that you get is so thin if you just get one layer, that it can be applied actually like almost like a more elegant Glossier Cloud Paint, like a even more watercolory version. This orange doesn't tend to be my favorite favorite color for blushes. It was just like the only one of all of them. It was the one that kind of intrigued me the most as a color on its own, like as a color just period, that it made me willing to get it, to try for this video. I don't think it works quite as well on me as those slightly ruddier shades like the other two blushes, but I just really like everything about it. Tactily, I like this compact. I think I would really like using it with a brush. I would really enjoy dipping a brush into it. It makes me want to use it. And I think it makes me want to use it slightly more than the one from Pacifica. And I think I might even like the color slightly more than the one from Pacifica. I think it wins. It's like the reigning champion over the one from Pacifica. Because the other thing is the balm, which felt so slippery when I first touched it, it got drier on my skin. It kind of turned into a balm stain a little bit. It's like if you wear a lip balm and it sort of sinks into your lips and then 2 hours later it's still there, but it's become so affixed to your lips that it's just like the very thinnest layer of hydration. It's not really slippery anymore or anything like that. It's kind of like that on the cheeks. It has really become dry. A lot of dry balms going on over here. Yeah, the color, now that the Pacifica one's gone and I'm just seeing the effect that Cowgirl from About Face has on my face, I really like it. It is kind of like that sunburnt, that faux sunburn. I really like it. I like that blush a lot better than I thought that it would when I placed the order for this video. Okay, up next, e.l.f. Camo Liquid Blush. Make it make sense, e.l.f. Camo was the name of a concealer and foundation range. That made sense because it's like camouflage, or you don't like camo blush. I don't know. They just couldn't move on. Camo Liquid Blush in the shade Dusty Rosé. Dusty Rosé, it's giving me like a mixed metaphors. You know what I mean? Because it's like rosé is a type of wine. Then if it's dusty, it's like yuck. Unless you're talking about an aged bottle, like such an old bottle of rosé that you've been keeping in your wine cellar for so long that the bottle is dusty. So it's a dusty rosé. Is that what you're talking about? There's the swatch. It feels dewy. It looks dewy. It feels, well, no, it feels like it's going to set down. It looks really wet, but I think that that's just as it stays wet for a long time before it dries down. So we'll see how the finish changes. Wow, it's pigmented. It's really pigmented. Okay, this is a very good product. I don't think it's going to be my winner today because it's too pink for me. I don't like this pink color, but I can immediately tell, well, a couple things. One, I've been using my fingers because I want to feel the texture of the product, but I can tell that this is something I would want to use a brush for. And the reason I say it's a very good product is that it has a lot of pigment that is very easy to control. So a little bit can go a very long way, which means that you could get a lot of bang for your buck. And this is one of the most affordable blushes that I'm testing. And of the ones I've tried so far, I think it's the one that would last the longest. The fact that it has so much pigment and that the medium is doing exactly, it feels manipulable, right? It feels like it's giving me time, like I said, because it was shiny out of the gate. It's giving me time to work with it and to move it around and to do whatever I want with it and get it where I want it to be, shear it out, build it up, etc. before it sets down. But I feel as it's setting down that it's going to set down to be pretty bulletproof. And then I can definitely build up. Like I could get a really intense blush look with this. Whereas I think that with the more balm style products that I've been trying, I can just tell by the substance that there's like a limit to how much they will build up. Whereas this, it's going to be versatile. So this is a very good product. I am impressed by it, but I prefer this like watercolory balm from About Face, partly because of color. This is the color from the e.l.f. blush range that I thought I would like the most. And it's just much more orange. Like look how kind of pale and almost like strawberry milky it looks in the tube. And then look how bright pink it is on me. I just don't like that. If I'd known that it was that, it's like that fluorescent watermelon color that doesn't register correctly on camera. I don't like that kind of color on me. So I'm not going to be wearing this blush. So it can't be the winner, but it's impressive. And it's a good one to know about. It is a drugstore gem, I think. I would say that that's like a really good drugstore blush, especially if you're on a very tight budget. Okay, next up, another cat hair. This is the one about which I have the highest hopes. Widely recognized, according to the internet, in the brief moment of research that I did, widely recognized as one of the best cream blushes at the drugstore. It's the Milani Cheek Kiss Cream Blush in 110 Nude Kiss. I do prefer this format. I had high hopes because I prefer this format. I like this component. It's one of the things I like about the About Face one. But at first touch, it's a melting balm. It's got something in it that melts at the heat of the touch. Melts like to a liquid, not just like to like a spreadable chocolate consistency, but like to a liquid oil. And I don't tend to like those melting blushes. It's like the one from Lawless that I tried recently. It's very similar feel. The color is also really bright compared to how it looked online and how it looks in the pan. Sad. I think I'm going to go ahead and do with my fingers because that's been my default today. Oh no. Okay, interesting. So it gets very dry when it's on the cheeks, but that's good, right? Because it's becoming very stable. I think that that's good. And it's very pigmented. There's a lot of payoff. I can see why people like this, right? Because it's another bang for your buck. Another one where if you need more pigment, if you need more color, like the one from e.l.f., it's going to deliver that, but in a much more lightweight formula. So it's like this extremely lightweight balmy formula that becomes one with the cheeks. And then it just feels like you've just basically dyed your skin. Like I feel like I've dyed my skin with a watercolory dye. And the fact that it goes from a solid state in a compact like this to product that actually applies kind of like something you would paint on that's extremely watery. I understand the appeal of that. To me, it's like too bright, too slidey, maybe like not as easy to get a nice even application. It's not a cream. I love a cream blush. It's actually cream. It's not cream. It's like a solid state, melty oil that sinks into the skin and becomes like a watercolory wash. So there are good aspects to that, but it's not as appealing to me as what I was hoping this would feel like, sort of a lipsticky cream. Now, what's interesting is that the About Face one, the current reigning champion, has some similar qualities to this, but it's almost like it's not as pigmented or something. There's something about it. Yeah, it's a little stiffer. It's also melting to the touch in that same way, but it's a little bit more like melting to a spreadable chocolate consistency. Kind of like the Phytosurgeon's blushes, but nothing can be as wonderful and satisfying as those. It is a little more like that than the one that I was just messing with from Milani. It's just got a little bit more tooth, and then I find it a little bit easier, honestly, to spread and to get it nice and even, to control the diffusion of it, where on this side it was just like, wow, a little bit all over the place and it didn't apply quite as elegantly. So yeah, About Face is still winning. Wow, I really thought I was going to love that Milani blush, but I really had a fantasy in my head of it as like a cream, like a true cream. And it just goes to show what a huge difference there can be between what you imagine something is going to be like when you buy it online and what it's actually like. Because it wasn't just my fantasy. I know that people love that blush. Okay, next up, the e.l.f. Luminous Putty Blush in the shade Maui. I had a terrible time with the regular e.l.f. Putty blush, not the luminous one, but I love a luminous blush, and I saw some really good reviews of this, comments about it. I decided to give it a try, even though I did not get along with a non-luminous e.l.f. Putty blush. I also really like this color. Okay, interesting. So it's got more tooth to it than a lot of them so far. I was able to dig my finger in. It does feel kind of like the other putty products from e.l.f., the Poreless Putty Primer, etc., but a little bit more like a cream product than that, little like less silicone-y. It doesn't really have that same amount of silicone-y slip. It feels more like makeup than that. It's got a little bit of gold pearl in it, but it's very fine and it's not reading as glitter, which I actually kind of thought that it would. It and the one from Pacifica are the ones that kind of you can stir up into a real paste more than any of the others so far. I cannot wait to see what this looks like. Oh, it looks pretty. It looks pretty. Okay, I was just looking in the mirror and feeling like the experience of applying it, and I was struggling a little bit because when I started trying to apply it, it immediately feels very dry, which I feel like there are pros and cons to that, right? I prefer that to something that stays emollient. I prefer it to something that slides all around and is like hard to get an even dispersion with, as some of the other blushes have done. And I prefer that dry feeling to like the moussey, like sink into the skin type of thing. It's not creamy, you know what I mean? It's not spreading like a cream blush does, although it does have a little bit of movement still. So I've been able to get a pretty even application. But my first thought was like, oh, it's feeling dry. It might be a little patchy. The dryness was what I didn't like about the non-luminous putty blush. But then I looked up into the monitor and look at it. Like it's so glowy. It's so glowy. I wonder what it would be like to apply with a brush as well. Okay, this is gonna be hard to see, but I've done like a little really watercolory swatch of it there with a brush onto like the heel of my hand right there. I think that's what I would do. So I've built up way too much here, but I could imagine this is like more generously sized than I thought it would be, this pot. I could imagine going in with a brush and just doing like the lightest application on my cheeks and really enjoying that. I want to take some of it off and do that to really see. This one's kind of like a contender because I really like the format and I'm a sucker for something pearly, shiny like that. I think I need a little green color corrector to just counteract all the intense like wiping and reapplication that I've done. And this color corrector has some clay in it, so it's also going to help to solidify some of the slickness that my cheek is getting from using so much micellar water. Okay, so say that I'm just starting from this on a random day. No highlighter, no other cheek product. Going in the brush, this is the Sigma Precision Powder Brush. Go figure, F08. Okay, it's kind of like flashback to the beginning when I was comparing the Sweet Cheeks blush from e.l.f. with the Pacifica one. Weirdly, even though this is a pretty intense orangey blush color for me, this is still the one from About Face Beauty, Cowgirl. I think it looks better, empirically better. Like it's just really pretty. It's a really pretty blush. Like it's a really pretty color. But I know myself and I know that day after day, I'm going to be more drawn to this luster and sort of like powdery paste feeling that can easily be applied with a brush that just feels a little bit less high stakes, like I'm glossing the face. This is so funny, but I sort of feel like in a vacuum, the winner, like of these two, the one that feels more like a drugstore gem, more like a high-end product and has a more intriguing color is the one from About Face Beauty. But the winner for me, the one that I'm going to be like excited to put on tomorrow morning, no matter what the rest of my makeup looks like, is the one from e.l.f. And it's partly because of all the qualities that I've discussed, but it's also the color. I think it could build up to something more intense, but it has like a duskiness, a slight gray tint that the other blushes that I've tried don't have. It's hard to find that at the drugstore, and it's nice to see that from e.l.f. So Maui Luminous Putty Blush is in the lead. I'm sorry to wipe this off though. It's really cool. That is a cool cheek. Okay, next up, I have trepidation about the Undone Beauty Lip to Cheek. I could not try it. A lot of you have said to try it. It looks very alluring, and isn't it just all full of coconut oil? I mean, coconut oil is very low on the ingredients list, so it's not one of those products that's just coconut oil mixed with pigment. It might be that they just put a little bit in so that they can say that coconut is their power product or whatever. The Undone Beauty Lip to Cheek Palette plus glow-giving coconut extract. Right, so maybe that turns me off because I'm worried that it's gonna just be super oily, but maybe it won't be. Wow. Okay, this is in the shade 340 Rosewood. We have yet to come across a really good shade name here at the drugstore today. I'm into this color. It is melting, but it's creamier. It is creamier than the Milani. It's kind of melting. It's melting to sort of a viscous melted chocolate. It's weird. It looks like it has 3 segments, like it's striated, but I think they're all the same. I know they have a different product that has like 3 separate colors, but this looks like it's just one color. The same product has been poured into each of the 3 sections. So maybe they just use the same like equipment to make it, but they just fill it with all one. This is nice. Oh, wow. I'm struggling. I guess I put too much on, but it didn't seem like that much. I really want to go into this with a brush. I just need to like move it around. Okay. Wow. This is so interesting. And I need to use the other. I got it all over. I got it too far over my face because of putting on too much. So I need to clean up a little bit. Okay, a little bit goes a very long way with this. I thought at first that it would be way too bright. Oh, I didn't swatch it on my hand. There it is right there. That is pretty. It's a pretty color. Did I not swatch? No, that's the e.l.f. right there, right? Yeah, that is the e.l.f. I just can't remember things I did 2 minutes ago. I like this. I like it a lot. It's interesting. It's different from all the others so far because it actually does feel quality. It has integrity, okay? It has body. It doesn't feel like it's like all filler. I don't know how to explain what I'm trying to explain it about makeup formulas. I put it on, I start spreading it out. It has grip. It's really grippy. It has a quality of tack that does feel like it comes from potentially a little bit of something oily, but it definitely doesn't feel like the RMS Beauty, just like coconut oil mixed with pigment situations. It feels really grippy. It feels really grippy to the skin. And then that grippiness means that it kind of retains its presence on the skin, and then it retains this really pretty sheen. It doesn't have like the high shine, the reflective metallic-ish shine of the one from e.l.f., which I think this is going to unseat the e.l.f. It's a little bit hard to see it go because I love that reflect. I'm just like a sucker for that kind of, like, my face is like a pearl, you know, I'm a sucker for that. But this is a more exciting product to me, and one that I will be more excited to use. I will probably apply it with a brush because I am having to kind of work with my fingers to blend it out. And I think just straight in with the tiniest bit on a brush, because a little bit goes quite a long way, I'm going to have a very beautiful result. I love the color. I feel like it applied a little bit bright at first, but then it started kind of setting and becoming one with the skin and really blending in with the look and with the skin. This is the one of all of them that I feel definitely the most enthusiastic about waking up tomorrow morning and messing with and playing with. And look how natural it looks because it's spread over a big surface area, but the edges are really softly feathered into the rest of my makeup. I think Undone Beauty is doing themselves a disservice by saying coconut blah 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 as a superfood, whatever because a lot of us are really leery of coconut oil as an ingredient in makeup because it is pore clogging. So anyone who's like struggled with acne, we're staying away from that ingredient. Notoriously clean beauty products that say like, oh, everything is just organic. We just squeezed it out of the forest and put it in a pot for you and it's beautiful, tend to be like 99% coconut oil. And it's just like putting oil on your cheeks and it doesn't really stay and it doesn't have like cosmetic integrity, you know? So I have been going along for years thinking that this product was like that because they're all about coconut oil in their advertising, but it's not. It definitely has more cosmetic integrity. I feel the color has been fading over the time, just the few minutes that I've sat here. For me, that's a good thing. I feel like it looks very natural. It's become something that looks really natural. I know for some people that might not be a good thing. And I don't know if it will continue to fade until it fades away to nothing over the course of a couple of hours. I mean, that's possible. It seems right now like it's just going to continue to look like this. A very natural sheen, a very natural color, a very natural relationship to the cheek, to the skin of the cheek. I'm into it. And this is special. I'm happy to know that the e.l.f. Luminous Putty Blush is kind of a serve, but this is better. There it is, the Undone Beauty just on the cheek without the other one, right? So you can really see what it's doing for the makeup look. I like how it has that slight burnt quality, but it's also really natural. It's pretty. And I like the sort of icky, sticky, beefy quality of the substance in the pan. Like that really means a lot to me. And that goes a long way towards compelling me to use the product. Up next, Maybelline Sunkisser Blush in the shade 06 City Sizzle. Maybelline Sunkisser Blush in City Sizzle. I guess they have a theme. The Sunkisser Blush has a theme. Interesting. So this had a lot of positive reviews. There were some liquid blushes in this kind of format that I just skipped over because it was like, whatever. This had a lot of positive reviews and I can't really remember what they said now, but I remember that was why I included it. What I'm liking is how it has this it's like slightly oily. So it's applying, I mean, this is the swatch that I'm getting, right? This is very reminiscent of Glossier Cloud Paint, but it has a little bit of shine in it. Actually some visible glitter, which is not necessarily great, but I'm so curious to know how this will apply. Again, I'm tempted to go with a brush, but I'm going to try to stick to this. It's actually good. It's interesting. It has a lot in common with Revolution Superdewy, even with the about face, like the way that it spreads out and then kind of sets. A little bit in common with the Milani in that it's one of these watercolory become one with the skin things. Glossier Cloud Paint, they really effed up the game. They really changed the face of things. So it's one of those, but it feels like it has a little bit of an oil in it so that it's giving me a little slip as it sets, which just makes it much more enjoyable to apply than the ones that have that moussey, dry silicone slip. It feels like it has more of an oily slip. So I like that better. And it also has a little bit of shine in it. And I like that too. It clearly looks like a not quite as good version of the one from Undone. I don't think it's going to unseat the other one, but you know, they're not dissimilar. Very similar color situation, very similar level of sheen, similar finish once it's set in. Honestly, the thing that's sort of making me skip over and be like, well, it's got a lot of good qualities, but it's not going to be the winner is the visible glitter particles, which I don't think are in every shade. It's just the shade that I picked. It's kind of like a NARS Orgasm shade, but a little bit ruddier, like a little richer, not that bright pink, but the gold reflect in it is kind of like that. Really a decent product. Really, really a decent product, but it doesn't have the je ne sais quoi of some of the others. Oh, the next one is the last one, and it's actually one that I have a lot of interest in. Okay, the final contender, e.l.f. Beauty Halo Glow Beauty Wand Blush in the shade Candlelit. This is the e.l.f. dupe for the Charlotte Tilbury Spotlight Glow Wand, but it's a blush. And I like the Charlotte Tilbury, these products by Charlotte Tilbury that this is duping. I like the blush and I like the Spotlight. I like the Spotlight Glow Wand, but when I got the darker color of the Spotlight Glow Wand to try to get like a shiny blush, it didn't work on me because it's actually a highlighter. It just didn't work. This, it's like the product that I wish Charlotte Tilbury would make. It's a very pale blush in that format. It's much smaller, much dinkier than the Charlotte Tilbury one though. The color, look at this color. Please retain this color as I blend you out. Yeah, it's just like, oh, it's gone a little peachy. It's going a little peachy gold. It's this huge swatch right here, but still quite pale. I just wanted it to retain that kind of gray undertone. I wonder if that color that is coming from the metallic particles all bunched together, and when they get spread out, they just look a little peachier and more gold. I actually, though, I really feel like this is a serious contender. It's interesting that it was last because, you know, I love something glowy and I love this format, this little thing. So first things first, the two glowy blushes from e.l.f. Okay, this one, which is the Halo Glow Beauty Wand in this pale peach color Candlelit, and the e.l.f. the Putty blush. I actually think I like this better. It's a little easier to control. It's a softer color. I think that the dispersion is better, a little bit less patchy, and I like that like liquid that sets down because it is setting down pretty sturdily. I like it better than the Putty format. So between those two, I think that this one wins. Does it win over this? Gosh, it's hard to say. I love the way that this looks. I actually think a very sheer wash of very pale color that has a lot of shine in it. It's kind of an ideal cheek product for me right now. So I feel compelled. I feel like of all of the ones I've tried today, on paper, this is like the best match actually for my needs. However, lately I've really been into really glass skin looking skin, like that really wet look cheek. None of these blushes have given that, but my cheeks have been having that look because of using the Ilia Skin Milk, because of using the Refi concealer. And so I've been into using a blush on top that doesn't disturb the glass skin look of the skin, but rather like lets it shine through. And I think that the Undone Beauty Cream would actually do that. Like it feels like it's going to become one with whatever I put it on top of and really look like skin. Whereas the one from e.l.f., because of the nature of the pearly shine, it just looks a little bit more like makeup on my cheek. But I find it easier to, oh no, I'm just like sitting back and crossing my arms and getting makeup everywhere. I find it easier to deal with that type of substance, right? Cream product that's dispensed from a squeezy tube so that I can dab it straight onto my cheeks without getting my fingers in it, without dipping a brush into it, and then blend it out, probably using a brush is probably what I would do, and have it sheer out so much that I don't have to do any like repair work, you know what I mean? And then have it leave that glossy look behind. It's interesting. These are definitely the top two. And to me, the question is just like when I wake up in the morning tomorrow morning, all right, I'm going to Imagineer it. I got up, we had breakfast, I have a little time after breakfast to put on some makeup. La 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 la, putting on makeup. I'm going to add a little bit of something to my cheeks. I think I feel more excited by the e.l.f. Beauty Spotlight Wand dupe because I have experience with the Beauty Spotlight Wand. I love the format. And what I want to do in my Imagineered fantasy of tomorrow is to put it on and see see how it wears and see if it looks super makeup-y throughout the day, metallic, or if it ends up just looking really glossy and natural. But it's the one that I'm the most excited to try. It's the one that I feel the most excited to try integrating into a pretty frequent makeup routine and to see like how it sits with me. However, looking ahead further than that, like thinking about myself 2 weeks into the future, I actually think that the Undone and the About Face, which are the two that I imagine, like I think after this video, right, I'm going to take these 10 blushes, I'm going to like put them in the box of recently tested makeup, and then I'm going to pull these 3, Undone, About Face, and e.l.f. tube, and put them in my actual makeup bag to test. And I think tomorrow morning, probably the e.l.f. will be the first one I pull to just see what it can do, right? See what it can do with my regular everyday makeup. But I will also test these two. I will also continue to test them over time. And thinking about myself in the future after having tested them for a couple weeks, I can imagine them being kind of neck and neck. And funnily enough, even though I like the icky sticky creaminess of the Undone Beauty more, when I really think about daily use, I can imagine the lighter pigment kind of and the thinner balm quality of the one from About Face turning out to be more user-friendly for me in the day-to-day. And I can also imagine this like really rusty, it's like the same color as my Polen bag, like this rusty, unusual blush calling me back day after day, like being more alluring to me day after day and ending up coming out on top. I could imagine that happening. So for today, it's these 3. We've boiled it down to these 3 kind of winners. Tentatively, the e.l.f. being the one that I kind of like the most right now, but that's definitely, as you can tell, a matter of personal taste. There's no world in which I'm sitting here saying like, this is empirically the best formula at the drugstore for a cream or liquid blush and everybody would love it the most. Of course not. I mean, all of these had their pros and cons, and you might be out there realizing that the one that would work the best for you is one of the ones that I immediately said, this isn't it, and wiped it off. So the point of this was for us to all experience all of these together. And then the one that I end up choosing for me is actually just sort of incidental. That's it. What fun. What would you like me to search for next at the drugstore? I've done a handful of videos like this, searching for lip balm. By the way, the lip balm tournament finale is coming soon. I am going to come back and kind of recap how it's gone with all the lip balms since then. I did a lip balm one. There's like a brown mascara one. Looking for a good grayish lipstick. What else do you want me to search for at the drugstore? Let me know in the comments down below. And don't forget to take extra good care of yourself so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.